What's Freakonomics?
You haven't read it? You want to. It wouldn't be a New York Times #1 bestseller if it wasn't a great book. But instead of trying to convince you, let me prove it.
Okay, so what's it about?
Freakonomics can truly teach you anything that you need to know about the world around you. Freakonomics helps to answer the riddles of everyday life, the small things that can have a big impact on the world. Yeah, so every chapter of the book begins with a question.
So, what do school teachers and sumo wrestlers have in common?
Well, have you ever cheated to get what you want? Isabel?
Oh, no, never.
Well, it turns out that's how a lot of the world gets by. For example, in Chicago, teachers changed their students' answers so that the students would have better test scores and the teachers would get paid more. Isn't that crazy?
Wow, that is crazy.
And also, in sumo wrestling, athletes changed their scores so that they would win more matches in advance. And finally, when things are given out for free, like with a suggested donation, for example, bagels, then less and less people will pay for them over time. It's really interesting.
5-second rule. So how are the KKK like real estate agents?
Ooh, I can answer this one. So real estate agents have a much better sense of the current condition of a local housing market than do buyers and sellers. Buyers and sellers may fear that they will not get a better deal at a different time or feel that they need to sell their house for, whatever reason. Real estate agents will use this to their advantage. In the book, Levitt, the author, uses the social situation of the KKK to make a parallel. The KKK, known as a hate group, had an informational advantage while rarely committing the crimes we hear about so often. They were able to use that information to their advantage to create a sense of fear which everyone around them believed was real.
That's really interesting.
So Sarah, I've always wondered this. Why do drug dealers still live with their moms?
So that's really interesting, actually. There's a misconception that all drug dealers are insanely wealthy. But interestingly enough, unless you're really at the top of the group, the business, you don't make enough generally to support yourself because you're kind of just like a hitman. Like you go out and you sell, but you don't sell enough to get by. So that's why a lot of drug dealers would live with their parents, which is kind of interesting.
That is pretty interesting.
This actually goes to prove the general statement that the conventional wisdom is often wrong. So what you would think is true is actually not.
Makes sense.
Did you know that in the 80s there was a massive drop in crime rates?
I actually did know that. So before Roe v. Wade was put into place, abortion was half of the crime that was happening in America. The crime went down a tremendous amount because of the new law that made abortion legal, because the people who would have committed the crimes were never even born.
Oh, like this drawing that you have here.
Like this drawing, yep. So pretty much, here was the whole half of the crime rate, right? This is abortion. And then this is everything else. That was half of the crime. So you can see how that...
Wow!
Yeah.
So to finish up, to make sure you really have learned all that this book has to offer, I'm going to read the fundamental ideas that guide this book. So the first is that incentives are the cornerstone of modern life. The second is the conventional wisdom is often wrong, as we've learned. And the third is that dramatic events often have distant, even subtle causes. So that's just something to leave you on. Have a nice day, and thanks for listening.